She was only trying to ask for help, but one accidental voice note sent her fear straight into the hands of the most dangerous man alive. Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe. The apartment was too quiet. Not peaceful, never that, but the kind of quiet that rang in the ears, that made every breath sound too loud, every movement feel dangerous. The overhead light flickered once, twice, then steadied, casting a pale glow over the cramped living room, where toys were scattered like forgotten landmines on the floor. Lena sat on the edge of the couch, hunched forward, one arm wrapped tightly around her baby. Milo was finally asleep. His tiny chest rose and fell against her, warm and solid and real. His fist curled into the fabric of her hoodie, as if he knew she was the only thing standing between him and the world. His cheek was damp with milk, lashes resting softly against flushed skin. 8 months old, too small, too innocent. Lena pressed her lips to his hair and inhaled shakily. The phone in her hand vibrated again. Her stomach dropped. She didn't need to look to know who it was from.
You can't keep him from me forever.
I know where you live. You think a judge will believe you? Her ex had always known how to choose his words. Short, sharp, designed to crawl under her skin and stay there. Her hands began to shake. She turned the phone face down on the table, like that might silence it, like it might keep the fear from spilling over. Her breath came too fast, her chest tight, panic building until it felt like the walls were inching closer. She needed help. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. With her free hand, she reached for the phone again, swiping blindly until she found the contact she needed. Sarah, her best friend. The only person who knew everything. The only person who had promised, over and over, that if things ever got bad again, Lena wouldn't be alone. Her thumb hovered over the microphone icon, her vision blurred with tears. She pressed it. "Sarah," she whispered, voice already breaking. I don't know what to do anymore." Her words came out rushed, tangled, tripping over each other as if afraid they wouldn't make it out in time. "He's back. He says he's taking Milo. He says I can't stop him, and I believe him. I really do." She sucked in a breath, trying not to sob, rocking slightly as Milo stirred, and then settled again. "I'm so scared. I don't have money for a lawyer. I don't have proof. And he knows that." Her grip tightened around her baby. "Please," she whispered, the word barely sound at all. "Please don't let him take my baby. I can't lose him. He's all I have." Her voice cracked completely then, tears spilling freely now, hot and unstoppable. "I don't care what it takes. I'll disappear. I'll move. I'll do anything. I just need help. I just need someone to tell me what to do before he shows up and—" She stopped abruptly, biting down on her lip as Milo shifted again, a small whimper escaping him. "Shh," she breathed, kissing his temple. "Mommy's here." Her thumb slipped. She didn't notice. She wiped her face with the back of her sleeve, chest heaving as she whispered the last words into the phone, quieter now, raw and stripped of everything but truth.
I'm begging you.
She hit send. The message whooshed away. Lena exhaled shakily and sagged back against the couch, eyes squeezed shut. For a moment, she just sat there, rocking gently, listening to her baby's breathing, trying to convince herself that help was on the way. Then her phone chimed. Once. She frowned.
Sarah never replied that fast.
Her heart thudded painfully as she lifted the phone again, blinking through tears to focus on the screen. Unknown number. No profile photo. No name. Just a string of digits she didn't recognize. A new message sat beneath the sent voice note. Not text, a reply voice note. Her fingers went numb. This wasn't right. She stared at the screen, confusion slowly giving way to dread as realization crept in. She scrolled up, heart hammering harder with every second. The voice note wasn't under Sarah's name. It was under an unsaved contact. A number she didn't remember adding. A number she had never spoken to. "Oh my God," she whispered. Her stomach twisted violently. She clutched Milo closer, suddenly aware of how exposed she was, how much she had just said, how much she had revealed to a stranger. Her thumb hovered over the play button. Every instinct screamed at her not to press it. But fear, and something darker, heavier, kept her frozen. With a trembling breath, Lena tapped play. A man's voice filled the quiet apartment. Low, calm, controlled. "Where are you?" That was all he said. No confusion, no questions, no shock. Just those 3 words. And in the silence that followed, Lena realized with chilling clarity, her accidental message hadn't reached just anyone. It had reached someone who sounded like he already knew what to do next. The words echoed long after the voice note ended. "Where are you?" Lena stared at her phone as if it had spoken in a foreign language. Her thumb hovered over the screen, frozen, her mind scrambling to catch up with what her heart already knew. Something was very wrong. She hadn't imagined it. The voice had been real, deep, steady. Not rushed, not confused, not gentle, in the way friends were when they heard panic. It carried weight, authority. The kind of voice that didn't need to explain itself. Her first instinct was to delete the message. Pretend it never happened. Pretend she hadn't poured her fear into the wrong place like blood into water. But the voice replayed itself in her head, calm and deliberate, and she realized something that made her breath hitch. It hadn't asked what happened. It hadn't asked who was threatening her. It hadn't even asked if she was okay. Only where, as if the rest had already been decided. Lena's phone vibrated again. A text this time.
"I'm not the person you meant to send that to."
But I heard everything.
Her pulse roared in her ears. She swallowed hard, glancing toward the door as if the man from the phone could somehow already be standing on the other side. The apartment suddenly felt too small, every shadow too sharp. Her fingers trembled as she typed, then erased, then typed again. "I'm sorry. That message wasn't for you." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. She hugged Milo closer, feeling his warmth, his steady breathing, grounding her just enough to keep from breaking apart completely. The reply came slower this time. "I know." Her chest tightened. "Please don't share it," she typed quickly, panic surging again. "You don't know me, but that was private. I made a mistake." The response came almost immediately. "I don't repeat things that don't belong to me." That should have comforted her. Instead, it made her more afraid. Who spoke like that? Her phone buzzed again before she could think of what to say next. "You're not wrong to be scared." Lena's breath caught. "He will try to take the child." Her heart slammed painfully against her ribs. "How do you know that?" she typed, hands shaking so badly she had to correct 3 typos. The answer came as another voice note. She hesitated only a second before pressing play, volume low. "I know men like him," the voice said. "They don't threaten unless they plan to follow through." A pause. "You don't have much time." Tears spilled down Lena's cheeks again, silently this time, soaking into Milo's blanket. "Who are you?" she typed. The 3 dots appeared, then stopped. Then a single line of text appeared on her screen. "Someone who doesn't like it when children are used as leverage." Her stomach twisted. She had lived long enough with fear to recognize it in others, and this wasn't curiosity or idle concern. This was something colder, more dangerous. "I didn't ask for help like this," she typed, guilt and desperation colliding. "I shouldn't have sent that." The reply came slower, measured. "But you did." Another pause. "And now I'm asking you something." Her throat went dry. "Where are you?" The same question. Repeated. Unyielding. Lena stared at the screen, heart racing. Every warning she had ever been taught screamed at her not to trust strangers, not to give out information, not to open the door to the unknown. But then Milo shifted in her arms, his tiny mouth opening in a sleepy sigh, his fingers curling tighter into her hoodie, and she thought of the messages waiting unread on her phone. The threats, the certainty in them. She closed her eyes. If she told this man where she was, she might be inviting something worse into her life. If she didn't finish the thought. With trembling fingers, Lena typed her address. She stared at it for a long second before pressing send. The message delivered. Seconds passed. Then her phone buzzed one last time.
Stay inside.
Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone who isn't me. Her breath stuttered. That's not reassuring, she typed weakly. A final reply appeared. It's not meant to be. Lena dropped the phone into her lap, heart pounding, the quiet of the apartment pressing in around her. Outside, somewhere in the city, a man she had never meant to contact had heard her fear and chosen to act. And she had no idea whether she had just been saved or stepped directly into something far more dangerous. Lena didn't mean to Google the number. It happened the way panic always did, her fingers moving faster than her thoughts, her mind scrambling for something solid to hold on to before everything tipped over. The phone lay heavy in her palm, warm from too much use, the screen still glowing with the last message he'd sent. Stay inside. Her stomach churned. She told herself she was being ridiculous. That unknown numbers were just that. Unknown. Wrong sends happened. Coincidences happened. The city was full of strangers who sounded confident on the phone. But the voice hadn't sounded like a stranger. It had sounded like someone who knew exactly how much power he held. Her heart thudded painfully as she copied the number and pasted it into the search bar. Milo stirred against her chest, letting out a soft whine, and she froze until his breathing evened again. Please don't wake up, she whispered, more to herself than to him. The page loaded. Nothing at first. Her pulse eased just a fraction, until she scrolled. A forum post, then another, then a news article with the comments turned off. Her fingers went numb. She clicked the first link. It was old, maybe 5 years back, a discussion thread buried deep in a local message board. No profile pictures. Just usernames and fear written between the lines. Does anyone know that number? Delete it if you have it. If he calls you, don't answer. Her throat went dry. She scrolled faster now, panic building with every line. Someone had typed a name. Just a name. No explanation. No context. As if explanation wasn't necessary. Lena's breath left her lungs in a sharp, silent rush. She knew the name. Everyone did. It was the kind of name people lowered their voices around. The kind that came up in news articles that never finished the story. The kind whispered by bartenders and cab drivers and people who survived by knowing who not to cross. The most dangerous man in the city. The man people said owned the streets without ever appearing in daylight. The man who didn't threaten. He acted. Her hands began to shake so violently she had to set the phone down on the couch beside her. A wave of nausea rolled through her, hot and dizzying, and she pressed her forehead against Milo's soft hair, breathing him in, grounding herself in something real. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She picked the phone back up. She needed to be wrong. She clicked another link, then another. News articles this time, carefully worded, names redacted. Phrases like alleged ties and unconfirmed involvement. Mentions of businesses that mysteriously changed ownership. Men who disappeared from court dockets without explanation. And always in the comments, the same warning. Don't say his name. If you know, you know. Pray he never notices you. Lena's chest tightened until it hurt. Her phone buzzed. She nearly dropped it. A new message from the same number lit up the screen. You went quiet. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She stared at the words, her vision blurring. He knew. Of course he knew. He hadn't needed to ask what she was doing. He'd expected it. I made a mistake, she typed, fingers clumsy with fear. I didn't know who you were. The reply came slower this time, measured. Most people don't. Tears slid down her cheeks unchecked. Please, she typed. I don't want trouble. I just want my baby safe. Seconds passed. Then a voice note appeared. Her chest constricted as she pressed play, barely daring to breathe. I don't hurt women who protect their children, his voice said quietly. And I don't punish people for accidents. A pause. But you should understand something. Her grip tightened around the phone.
You didn't reach out to me, he continued. You reached the city.
The words sent a chill through her bones. And the city listens when children are in danger. Lena's hands trembled as she held Milo closer, every instinct screaming at her to run, to hide, to disappear. But there was nowhere left to go. She had already been found. Not by her ex, by something far bigger. Her phone vibrated again.
He's closer than you think.
Her blood turned to ice. How do you know that? She typed, dread curling in her stomach. The response came immediately. Because men like him don't wait once they smell fear. Her gaze flicked to the door, to the lock, to the thin wood separating her from the hallway beyond. I didn't mean for this, she whispered aloud, tears dripping onto Milo's blanket. The phone buzzed one last time. I did. Lena sank back against the couch, heart pounding, the weight of the realization crushing down on her. She hadn't sent her fear into the void. She had sent it to the one man in the city who answered cries for help in a way no one could undo. And somewhere in the dark, the name everyone whispered was already moving. Lena didn't respond right away. Her phone rested on the couch beside her, screen dark, like it was waiting. The apartment felt colder than it had minutes before, as if the air itself had learned who was listening now. Milo shifted in her arms, a small sigh leaving his lips. She rocked him gently, her body moving on instinct, while her mind spun in tight, panicked circles. Every sound from the hallway made her flinch. Every distant car door outside sent a jolt through her spine. She picked up the phone again, hands trembling. You said you heard everything, she typed. I was crying. I didn't mean for anyone else to hear that. The reply didn't come immediately. Seconds stretched. Each one felt sharp. Then another voice note appeared. She almost didn't press play, but she did.
I didn't stop it,
his voice said. It was quieter this time. Not softer, quieter, like he'd stepped closer to something fragile. I listened from the first second to the last. Her throat closed. You tried to keep your voice low, he continued. You kept pausing to check his breathing. You counted between sobs so you wouldn't wake him. Lena's breath stuttered. You pressed your mouth into his hair to muffle the sound, he went on. And when your voice broke, you stopped talking instead of letting yourself cry. Her vision blurred completely now. Tears slid down her cheeks, dripping onto Milo's blanket. I heard you say you'd disappear, the man said. That you'd do anything. People don't say that unless they already feel trapped. Lena pressed her free hand to her mouth, a sob tearing loose despite her effort to stay quiet. Please stop, she typed with shaking fingers. I feel like you were there. The response came as text this time. I was. Her chest tightened painfully. That was private, she wrote. That was the worst moment of my life. Another pause. Then his reply. I know. She shook her head slowly, disbelief mixing with fear. Why would you listen to something like that? Why wouldn't you stop it? The answer came as a voice note again, slower, deliberate. Because people don't send messages like that unless they're at the edge, he said. And because when a mother whispers instead of screams, it means she's already learned that noise has consequences. Her body went cold. She hadn't told him that. I heard the way you apologized for crying, he continued. I heard you say his name like it was an anchor, like saying it was the only thing keeping you from falling apart. Lena's arms tightened around Milo, without her realizing it. She buried her face into his soft hair, breathing him in, grounding herself in the warmth of him. You don't know me, she typed weakly. No, his next message came. But I know fear, and I know what it sounds like when it's learned. She looked around the apartment again, the chipped paint, the thin door, the lock that suddenly felt inadequate. She had lived here long enough to memorize every creak, every sound that didn't belong. She had learned to be quiet, to hide, to survive. And somehow a stranger had heard all of that in one accidental message. "What do you want from me?" she finally typed. The answer came quickly. Nothing. Then, almost immediately, another message followed. "I want him away from you." Her heart skipped. "You don't even know him," she wrote. "I know enough," he replied. "Men who threaten children don't stop." Lena swallowed hard, dread pooling low in her stomach. "You said stay inside," she typed. "Why?" There was a longer pause this time, long enough that she thought he might not answer. Then the reply appeared. "Because I heard the moment your voice changed when you said he might show up." Her gaze snapped to the door again. "And because I heard something else," his next message continued. A sound in the background. "Metal. A gate. A door that doesn't close all the way." Her blood ran cold. "How could you possibly—" "I pay attention," he replied. "And so does he." Lena's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. "What are you saying?" she typed. The final message came with no hesitation at all. "I'm saying you weren't wrong to be afraid."
And I'm saying you sent that message at the exact moment you needed to.
She stared at the screen, heart pounding, the weight of his words pressing down on her chest. She hadn't just been heard. She had been understood. And whatever came next, whatever kind of man had listened to every second of her breaking, he wasn't looking away now. Lena read the message 3 times. "He won't touch your child." No explanation, no follow-up, no reassurance wrapped around it to soften the edges. Just the statement. Her first reaction wasn't relief. It was fear. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, heart pounding so hard it made her dizzy. Milo slept on, unaware, his tiny mouth parted slightly, one hand resting against her collarbone like a claim. "What does that mean?" she typed finally. The reply came slowly, deliberate. "It means exactly what it says." Her stomach twisted. "Are you calling the police?" she asked. "Because I already tried that once. They told me to document, to wait." This time the answer came immediately. "Number. Just that." One word. Cold. Final. Her chest tightened. "Then what are you doing?" The dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "I'm handling it." Lena's breath hitched. "Handling it how?" she pressed, panic creeping back into her veins. "You said you wouldn't punish me for a mistake, but this sounds like trouble." A voice note appeared. She hesitated, then pressed play. "I don't use the police," his voice said calmly. "And I don't trust courts to move faster than men who think they're entitled to children." Her heart hammered. "I won't put your name in a system that fails women," he continued. "And I won't put your child's future in the hands of people who call bruises claims." Lena squeezed her eyes shut. "That means," he went on, "I'm not asking for permission." Her throat went dry. "This isn't what I wanted," she typed, guilt clawing at her. "I just wanted advice. I just wanted to know how to keep him away." The reply came softer, but no less unsettling. "That's what I'm doing." She shook her head slowly, tears spilling again. "You're scaring me." There was a pause, then his response. "Good." Her breath caught in her chest. "Why would you say that?" Another voice note. "Because fear keeps people alive," he said. "And because you need to understand the difference between danger and protection." Her hands trembled as she held the phone closer. "He is danger," the man continued. "What I do is protection. They look similar from the outside. But only one of them ends the threat permanently." Lena's stomach rolled. "You're talking like he's not a person," she typed. The reply took longer this time. "He stopped being a person when he used your child to control you." Silence stretched between them. Outside, a car passed. Somewhere down the hall, a door closed. ordinary sounds that felt suddenly fragile, like glass. What if you make it worse? She whispered into the phone, not even typing now. What if he comes back angry? The reply came as text. He won't come back. Her pulse spiked painfully.
You can't promise that.
I already did. She stared at the words, her whole body tense. And what if this comes back on me? She typed. What if people ask questions? What if...
Then you tell the truth, he replied. That you were scared. That you protected your child. That you never asked for what happens next.
Lena pressed her forehead against Milo's, breathing him in, grounding herself. Why are you doing this? She asked finally. You don't know me. The answer came slower than all the rest. Because someone once begged me the same way. Her heart skipped, and I ignored it. A long pause followed, longer than any before. Then, one final message appeared.
I don't do that twice.
Lena stared at the screen, shaking, her mind split between relief and terror. Somewhere deep inside her, a small, traitorous part of her wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that there were men in the world who could end things cleanly, quietly, for good. But another part of her, the part that had learned fear the hard way, knew that promises like that always came with a price. She hugged her baby tighter, whispering into his hair.
Please,
she breathed.
Please let this end.
Her phone vibrated one last time. Turn off the lights. Lock the door. If he shows up tonight, he won't leave. Lena swallowed hard, her pulse roaring in her ears. She didn't know whether she had just been saved, or whether she had invited something far darker into her life. The knock came too soon. Not loud at first, just a dull, careless thud against the door, like someone leaning their weight where it didn't belong. Lena froze on the couch, every muscle locking at once. Milo stirred in her arms, letting out a soft sound, and panic flared sharp and immediate.
No,
she whispered.
Not yet. Please, not yet.
Her phone lay beside her, dark and silent. No new messages. No reassurance. Just the echo of the last words he'd sent her still ringing in her ears. If he shows up tonight, he won't leave. Another knock followed. Harder this time, less patient. Lena, a familiar voice slurred through the door. Open up. Her blood turned to ice. She didn't move. She barely breathed. The apartment felt impossibly small now, the walls closing in, the thin door suddenly the only thing standing between her and years of fear made flesh again. Milo whimpered, sensing the tension. She tightened her hold on him, rocking gently, pressing her lips to his head. It's okay, she breathed. Mommy's here. The knock turned into a pound.
I know you're in there, her ex snarled. You think locking the door changes anything?
She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the urge to scream. Her gaze darted to the phone. Still nothing. The handle rattled. Her heart slammed violently against her ribs.
Open the door,
he shouted, voice cracking with anger and alcohol.
You don't get to keep my kid from me.
Milo began to cry. The sound sliced through her like a blade. Shh, shh, she whispered desperately, tears spilling now, panic clawing up her throat. She stood, backing away from the door, instinctively moving toward the bedroom, toward the farthest corner she could find. The pounding grew louder.
Don't make me break it down,
he yelled.
You hear me?
Her legs shook so badly she nearly stumbled. Her phone vibrated. Once. Her breath hitched as she snatched it up, hands trembling. He's there, the message read. I told you not to open the door. She stared at the screen, heart racing. He's trying to get in, she typed back, fingers clumsy with fear. He's drunk. The reply came immediately. I know. Her stomach dropped. How? She typed. Another knock. No, a kick this time. Hit the door. The frame groaning in protest. Open it, he roared, before I really lose my patience! Milo's cries grew louder, frightened and sharp, his little body shaking against hers. Her phone buzzed again. I'm 5 minutes away. 5 minutes. It might as well have been forever. She backed into the bedroom, locking the door behind her with shaking hands, then crouched beside the bed, pulling Milo close, pressing his face into her chest to muffle his cries. The sound of wood splintering echoed through the apartment. The front door gave way with a sharp crack. Her ex stumbled inside, laughing harshly.
There you are, he called. You always hide.
Footsteps staggered closer. Lena clamped a hand over her mouth to keep from sobbing. Her whole body shook as she pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding so hard she feared it would give them away. The bedroom handle rattled. Open up, he said, voice low and dangerous now. I just want to talk. The door shook as he slammed his shoulder into it. Milo screamed. Her phone vibrated again in her hand.
Stay where you are, the message read. Do not move.
Another crash hit the door. The frame creaked. I'm taking him, her ex slurred. You don't deserve him. Lena's vision blurred with tears. I won't let you, she whispered fiercely, even as fear threatened to swallow her whole. Then, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway outside the apartment. Not rushed, not unsteady. Deliberate. A voice cut through the chaos, calm and cold. Step away from the door. Silence fell so abruptly it felt unreal. Her ex froze mid-motion. What the hell is this? He snapped. The voice came again, closer now. The last warning you'll ever get. Lena clutched Milo tighter, heart racing, as realization crashed over her. Someone else had arrived, and the man at her door had no idea what kind of danger he'd just stepped into. The hallway went still. Not the tense stillness before shouting, but the kind that sucked the air out of the room. The kind that made instinct scream run, even when the body couldn't move. Lena pressed herself against the bedroom wall. Milo clutched to her chest, her heart pounding so violently she thought it might give her away. Her baby's cries cut through the silence, sharp and frightened, his small body trembling against hers. Outside the bedroom door, her ex froze.
Who the hell are you?
He slurred, trying to sound tough, trying and failing to steady himself. Lena didn't see the man who answered. She only heard him. His footsteps were slow, controlled. Each one measured, as if he had all the time in the world. No rush. No hesitation. I told you to step away from the door, the stranger said. Her ex laughed brittle and ugly. This is my house, my kid. You don't get to... The sentence never finished. There was a sound, dull, final, and then a gasp as breath was knocked from lungs. A body hit the wall hard enough to rattle the picture frames. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. Lena squeezed her eyes shut. She heard her ex wheeze, heard something heavy slide to the floor. You broke in, the stranger said calmly. You threatened a woman. You terrified a child. A pause. You don't get to stand anymore. Another sound. A sharp inhale. Pain. But still no shouting. No chaos. The violence was quiet. Efficient. Milo screamed louder, panic peaking, his tiny fists pounding against her chest. Lena rocked him desperately, tears streaming down her face. Shh, shh, it's okay, she whispered. Mommy's here. Mommy's here. The bedroom door creaked slightly as pressure against it eased. Her ex wasn't trying to force his way in anymore. Outside, the stranger moved. Then, he stopped, completely. Lena felt it, even without seeing him. The shift in the air. The sudden, unnatural pause. Milo's cries echoed in the small bedroom, raw and broken. The sound of a baby who didn't understand why the world had turned so loud and dangerous. The stranger exhaled slowly. The sound was quiet, but it carried something else now. Not anger. Something older, deeper.
Is that him? The stranger asked softly.
Her ex groaned from the floor, barely conscious. Answer me, the stranger said, and the cold was back, but it was focused now, controlled.
That's the baby, her ex muttered bitterly. Mine.
The stranger didn't respond right away.
Instead, he stepped closer to the bedroom door.
Lena's breath caught painfully in her throat. She didn't know why, but suddenly she wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid for him. Because the sound coming from Milo, it wasn't just crying, it was terror. The stranger raised a hand slowly and knocked once on the bedroom door. Not hard, not threatening, just enough to be heard.
Lena,
he said quietly.
Her name.
Hearing it out loud, here now, made her knees weak. It's me, he continued. You can stay where you are. I'm not coming in unless you want me to. Milo's cries hitched slightly, as if even he felt the change. Lena swallowed hard, her voice shaking. Is he?
He's not going anywhere, the man said. Not tonight. Not ever again.
Another pause. I need to see the baby, he added. Fear flickered, but something else followed. Trust, fragile and terrifying. She cracked the door open just an inch.
Enough for him to see.
Enough for her to see him. He stood in the hallway, tall and still, his dark coat untouched by the chaos around him. Her ex lay crumpled on the floor behind him, unmoving, no longer dangerous, just small and broken. But the stranger's eyes weren't on the man. They were locked on Milo. The moment he saw the baby's tear-streaked face, something in him broke. It was subtle, barely visible. A tightening of the jaw, a flicker behind his eyes. But it was real. The crying didn't scare him. It shattered him. Lena watched as his breath hitched, just once, before he mastered himself again. May I? He asked quietly, gesturing toward Milo. Her arms trembled as she nodded. He stepped closer, slow and careful, as if approaching something sacred. When he reached out, his hands that had just ended a threat, were impossibly gentle. Milo hiccuped, then slowly, impossibly, grew quiet. The stranger froze. He stared down at the baby in his arms like the world had tilted off its axis.
I know that sound, he whispered, almost to himself. Lena's heart clenched.
For the first time she realized something terrifying and profound. The most dangerous man in the city wasn't stopped by violence. He was stopped by a crying child. And whatever he was about to do next, it wasn't just about power anymore. The baby went quiet slowly. Not all at once. Not like a switch flipping, but in soft stages, hiccups fading into shallow breaths, fists unclenching one finger at a time, Milo's small body relaxing against the stranger's chest, as if it recognized something safe before Lena's mind could catch up.
The man didn't move.
He stood there in the dim hallway, cradling Milo, with an instinct so natural it startled even him. One arm supported the baby's back and head, the other curved protectively around his body, shielding him from the world, as if that had always been his role. Lena watched, frozen. Her ex lay groaning on the floor behind him, already forgotten, irrelevant, reduced to noise that no longer mattered. All that existed now was the sight of this man. This name people whispered in fear, standing utterly still, eyes fixed on a child who had stopped crying because of him. I know that sound, he said again, more quietly this time. Lena swallowed. What sound? He didn't answer right away. His gaze never left Milo's face. The cry, he said, the one that isn't hunger or pain. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, the one that means they're afraid and don't understand why. Something in his voice made Lena's chest ache. She hugged herself, suddenly aware of how exposed this moment was. You don't have to. I do, he interrupted gently. He shifted his weight and lowered himself onto the edge of the couch, still holding Milo. The apartment was a mess. Splintered wood, overturned furniture, the aftermath of fear. But the way he sat made it feel briefly like a different place, like a room where truths could be spoken without being used as weapons. "There was a child," he said. Lena's breath caught. "A long time ago," he continued, "before the city knew my name, before anyone feared it." Milo stirred slightly, then settled again, his cheek pressed against the man's chest. The stranger's fingers flexed unconsciously, holding him closer. "She was small," he said. "Too small to understand why her father was never home when the sun was up." Lena sank down into the armchair across from him, heart pounding. "I told myself I was doing it for her," he went on. "That every deal, every threat, every line I crossed was building something that would protect her." A bitter smile flickered across his mouth and disappeared. "I was wrong." The word landed heavy. "She got sick," he said. "Not suddenly, slowly. The kind of sickness that gives you time to lie to yourself." Lena felt tears sting her eyes. "I promised her I'd be there," he said quietly. "I promised her I wouldn't miss another night." His voice roughened just slightly. "I broke that promise." Silence filled the room, thick and reverent. "I was across the city when the call came," he continued. "I was in a meeting that couldn't be interrupted. That's what they told me." His fingers curled into Milo's blanket. "By the time I got there, she was already gone." Lena pressed a hand to her mouth. "No one knows this," he said. "Not my men, not my enemies. Fear doesn't work if people know where the cracks are." He finally looked up at her then, dark eyes steady but unguarded in a way that felt almost intimate. "I learned something that night," he said. "Power doesn't mean you get to decide what matters later." Milo made a small sound, half asleep, and the man froze again, instinctively rocking him once. "I swore," he whispered, more to the child than to Lena, "that if I ever heard that cry again, I would not ignore it." Lena's tears spilled freely now. "You didn't ignore me," she said softly. "No," he agreed. "I heard you." He looked down at Milo, his expression unreadable and aching all at once. "I can't fix what I lost," he said, "but I can keep that promise now." Lena stood slowly and stepped closer, her voice trembling. "What happens next?" He met her gaze. "What should have happened before?" he said. "Your child grows up without learning how to be quiet out of fear." Milo shifted again, and for the first time since Lena could remember, her baby slept deeply, safe in the arms of a man who had once failed and would not fail again. In the silence that followed, Lena understood something profound. This wasn't just protection. It was atonement. Morning came without permission. Gray light slipped through the blinds, touching the wreckage of the night before. Splintered wood by the door, a chair overturned. The quiet proof that fear had finally been interrupted. Lena woke on the couch with a stiff neck, and Milo warm against her chest, his breath steady, deep, unafraid. For a few precious seconds she didn't remember why her body felt so heavy. Then she saw him. The man stood by the window, phone to his ear, speaking in a low voice that never rose, never rushed. He wasn't angry. He didn't need to be. The room bent around his calm the way it had the night before. "No," he said quietly. "Not today. Make it clean." He ended the call and turned as if he'd known she was awake. "You should pack," he said. "Just essentials." Her stomach tightened. "Are we leaving?" "Yes." She sat up slowly, heart pounding again, not with terror this time, but with the weight of inevitability. "For how long?" He didn't answer immediately. That was the first warning. Within hours, the apartment filled with people who didn't look like saviors. Lawyers in tailored suits. A woman with steel gray hair who spoke softly but carried authority in every syllable. Another man who never spoke at all and somehow controlled the room anyway. Paperwork appeared. Orders filed before coffee had cooled. A restraining order so comprehensive it read like a wall, not a boundary. Custody documents expedited, addresses sealed. names redacted. And then, questions Lena never asked were answered anyway. Her ex was gone, not arrested, not released.
Gone.
No social media, no workplace, no friends answering calls. He vanished from the map with frightening efficiency, like someone had erased him between one breath and the next. She hugged Milo tighter as she listened, her voice barely above a whisper. "What did you do?" The man met her eyes, steady and unapologetic. "I removed the problem," he said, "and the ability to create new ones." A chill slid down her spine. "And if he comes back?" "He won't." There it was again, that finality. The lawyer with the gray hair cleared her throat. "You'll be moved today. Somewhere secure. Your name will not be attached to the address." Lena nodded numbly.
"And after that?" she asked.
Silence. The man stepped closer, not invading her space, not looming, simply present. "After that," he said, "your life changes." The words weren't a threat. They were a statement of fact. That night, Lena stood in a new kitchen she hadn't chosen, holding a mug she didn't remember asking for, watching Milo sleep in a crib that had appeared fully assembled while she wasn't looking. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet in a way that felt earned. No sirens, no shouting, no waiting for the next shoe to drop. He stood in the doorway, watching her watch her child. "They'll keep you safe," he said, "but not invisible." She swallowed. "I never asked for all this." "I know." Her hands trembled slightly. "What do you want from me?" He didn't answer right away. Then,
"Nothing you didn't already give."
she frowned. "Which is?" "Trust," he said. "Accidental, but real." The truth of it landed hard. This safety wasn't temporary. It wasn't charity. It wasn't something she could step out of when life felt normal again. It was a tether. To him. To his world. To consequences she didn't fully understand yet. "If I wanted to walk away," she asked quietly, "could I?" He considered her carefully. "Yes," he said, "but the world wouldn't forget you existed. And neither would I." Her breath caught. Not a threat. A warning. She looked down at Milo, sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks, his tiny fingers relaxed instead of clenched. "I don't regret it," she said. "I'm just afraid." His expression softened, just enough to be human. "So was I," he said. "The first time I realized protection always costs something." He turned to leave, then paused. "You did the hardest part," he added. "You asked for help." As he walked away, Lena understood the truth settling into her bones. She and her child were safe, but safety, like power, always came with a price. And she had just bound her life to the only man in the city who could pay it without blinking. The house had learned her rhythms. Morning light spilled through wide windows that didn't rattle when trucks passed. The floorboards didn't creak in warning. The walls didn't seem to listen. It was a quiet that didn't demand anything from her in return. Lena stood at the kitchen counter, one hand resting on the smooth wood, the other wrapped around a mug that was still too hot to drink. Outside, the garden breathed softly in the early air. Somewhere down the hall, Milo laughed. Not a startled sound. Not a whimper turning into a cry. A real laugh. She closed her eyes for a moment and let it sink in. 8 months ago, she had learned to cry silently so she wouldn't wake her baby. Now he woke her with joy. Her life had rebuilt itself in careful layers. A new name on the lease. A job that let her work from home. Lawyers who checked in without asking. A phone number she never gave out, and one she never deleted. Him. He didn't come every day. He didn't hover. He didn't pretend this was something it wasn't. When he appeared, it was brief and deliberate. A quiet check-in. A question about Milo's teeth. A reminder to call if anything felt wrong. He never asked for gratitude. He never needed to. Lena reached into the drawer beside the sink and pulled out her old phone. The cracked one she had almost thrown away a dozen times. The one she kept powered off, tucked out of sight like a relic from another life. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She hadn't listened to it again. Not once. Until today. Milo toddled into the kitchen on unsteady legs, clutching his favorite stuffed animal, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. He stopped at her feet and held his arms up. "Up!" he demanded. She smiled, scooping him into her arms, pressing a kiss to his hair. "Just for a minute, okay?" She sat at the table and powered the phone on. The screen flickered. Loaded. The notification appeared immediately, as if it had been waiting all this time. One unsent voice note. She inhaled slowly and pressed play. Her own voice filled the room. Thin, shaking, barely holding together. "Sarah," she whispered from the past. I don't know what to do anymore." Lena's throat tightened. She listened to every second. The pauses, the way she swallowed tears. The moment her voice dropped when Milo stirred. The way she begged without realizing she was doing it. "Please don't let him take my baby." She pressed a hand to her mouth. Milo shifted in her lap, curious, then leaned against her chest, listening without understanding. The voice note ended with her broken whisper. "I'm begging you." Silence followed. Lena let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. For months she had thought of that message as an accident. A slip, a mistake born of exhaustion and fear. But listening now, safe, steady, alive, she understood something she hadn't then. That voice note hadn't been sent by chance. It had been sent because she had finally reached the moment where survival required surrendering control, where pretending she could handle it alone would have cost her everything. Her phone buzzed softly. A message. From him. "You okay?" She smiled faintly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I am," she typed back. "I was just listening to something old." There was a pause, then, "That night changed things." She looked down at Milo, who was now gnawing on the edge of her sleeve, completely unafraid of the world. "It did," she replied. "For both of us." Another pause. "I told you once I don't ignore voices like that anymore." She closed her eyes. "I know," she typed. "I just didn't understand what it meant then." The reply came a moment later. "Neither did I." Lena set the phone aside and held her son close, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the solid weight of him in her arms. Outside, the day went on, ordinary, unremarkable, safe. She finally understood the truth that had taken months to settle into her bones. That voice note wasn't a cry into the void. It was a door. And the moment she pressed send, she didn't just ask for help. She stepped into a future where fear no longer had the final word.